So I've been sitting here thinking about some of the ways that we hem and haw over making decisions. There are ends that we want to achieve, and sometimes the means to get there can be complex, and that keeps us stuck in a place. And oddly, that's the place I have been in trying to start this video. Oh, I'm not dressed right for this. Oh, I'm not in the right place. There's something I need to get to, so I also need to be careful that I don't go too long with this. However, the freshness of this conversation in my mind is why I'm bringing it to you. Why do we hesitate to do good things? In this video, I'm going to introduce some things that you know, and I'm going to introduce a concept that maybe you haven't heard before. So why am I so amped up about telling you about this right now? Well, you know, I've made a lifetime out of learning to communicate better with people and identifying ways that we sometimes miscommunicate. And I think about it often still. And this morning, trying to get ready, I didn't completely get ready. This morning, it struck me in a way I hadn't really thought about before. There are things that we struggle with. It's very common throughout society, and it can be very acceptable to struggle with. And then there are things that we, humanity, can struggle with that for some reason is not so acceptable. But we're all humans and we all have that capacity. So it begins to divide us as people. Oh, they struggle with this thing, they struggle with these things are okay, these things are not okay. So let's separate them. And then within those divisions, there are more reasons to separate us. It could be skin color, it could be where you grew up, the kind of culture that you're around, your television preferences, like television. No one says television. Okay, we're just gonna move on. So there are all kinds of reasons to see ourselves as divided. There are also all kinds of reasons to see ourselves as one. But when we're so used to seeing divisions and saying, okay, let's divide that up. So you've identified this, it's acceptable, but what kind of acceptable are we talking about? And then you divide it into even smaller pieces, and you divide those into smaller pieces, thinking that in the smallest point of view, that is where you will find how to fix it, as if means are discrete to a particular situation. Now, I will agree with you that there's so many different ways to shred up, to divide, a taxonomy on how you understand something. And in the way that you divide it, there are optimal efficiencies in addressing it. But I would argue also that there are mandatory fundamentals that if you have mastery over fundamentals, you can very quickly switch into those things instead of by rote learning very minute, discrete differences and then having a very pre-programmed way to address it. I feel like while that is useful, it has helped you to understand something in a very discrete way, it discourages creativity that can come from learning mastery of the fundamentals, being surprised with any discrete thing, and then saying, I know how to respond. So two different ways of arriving to the same conclusion. In this video, I kind of want to just throw out some concepts, and my plan is, if I'm happy with this, I'm pretty sure I'm just going to post this as is because it's unique for me to do this way. So I just want to see what happens. But in further videos, I'll get into the discrete nature of that, because it's been very interesting for my brain lately. Just haven't made time to make a video about it. But I think some of you instantly understand the struggle that my brain is in, because you are constantly trying to find the best way to address a very specific problem that is different than the common problem. And then there are others of you that say, well, that's how I do everything. And the two of you types of people have trouble communicating in the workplace because one is saying, well, we'll just go with the flow. And the other gets a little bit of anxiety when they hear that because they think you will not be prepared. And both have something to contribute. I think if those two kinds of people can learn to work together, you have a very powerful team. But if all of the similar people get into different camps and they're trying to convince the other to think in a different way, then you have a lot of slowdown, and there can be a lot of, I wouldn't say chaos, but I would say a lack of coordination, a lack for mutual respect. But I would argue that both are useful. I'm struggling at the tip of my brain to come at a concrete example that's not my own. So I'm going to be vulnerable and go ahead and use it. Let me stay out of the workplace example because I can get overly detailed. Let's think more in the realm of serving others. I'm thinking as far back as the early 2000s, 2010s, serving people because I wanted to sit with them while they process something. And these people could be in any stream of life. And I still see it today every once in a while, but people who are going through something they have trouble talking about because it puts them into, like, again, I talked about the categories, it puts them into a category that makes them feel like you have to serve me. You're stooping to help me. And whether that's true for the person who is helping or not, that's the point of view the person who is receiving care is coming from. And that comes with a whole lot of things. So it could be post almost overdose, and whatever that is, they feel the weight of a category, a label. They feel the weight of, oh, you think you're better than me. They feel the weight of all of the things that were going through their mind to go to that place. And then you have the person on the other side who says, okay, yeah, that was scary. So they bring the energy of, I'm trying to be strong, and they're trying to hide the fact that freaked me out. There is but I love you, so I'm here for you. There could be the air of, and I'm thinking back to the way back of, wow, this is the first time it's come to my mind like this, but something that I'm just going to say it, finally something that is worth my skill. Super arrogant, an excitement at someone else's misfortune, something that really comes out of a very youthful place of, I've wanted to love people in hard times, and here it is. Just take it for what it is, because when you are young and attempting to help, the going from I studied for this to now I'm participating. Think about any other realm. Think about a soccer game, and you've been practicing a move, and then you're in a game and you actually get to use it. There is a place in you that gets kind of excited about being able to use your skill. And when you take it into a people care circumstance, it can become counterproductive. But until you have the opportunity to not only use your skill, but to see yourself, you don't realize that that expression is coming out of you. Does that make sense? because in my mind as a, 20 something Kirale, I learn one thing at a time. I learn a lot of things very quickly, but I learn one thing at a time. And I did not know, I didn't know how to see myself for a really long time. I learned what I learned to program, and if I had not yet had the opportunity to program it into my reaction, it comes out the way it comes out. And some of you will really identify with that. And it's the fact that that expression, something that is worth my skill, came out like this. I'm dealing internally with how painful that is for people to be seen as a project, to be seen as, a means to my own ends. That hurts. That hurts a little bit because that was not what was intended. But imagine being on the other side. Imagine being the one who has a circumstance, any circumstance, and you need help. And the expression you think you're getting from someone is your need is finally worthy of my skill. You don't feel seen. You feel like someone's project. And it can be tempting to reject aid because of that. So yeah, a lot of really messy things. I wrote a couple of things down earlier, which is what prompted me to look through this. I'm just going to read through it really quickly. And then there's the circumstance where I talked about all of the little divisions. When you try to approach it and say, I have these skills and I know how to increase this skill and decrease this skill for this circumstance, because that is the type of response that will be most helpful in this situation. When you're able to do that and you bring it to the person, you can say, okay, I'm hearing your situation. Let's go back to a lifestyle that puts you in a realm of, I don't know how specific I want to get into, but let's say you're willing to talk with someone about how difficult something is for you right now. And it's a very specific situation that may put you into the category of things that we struggle with that are not acceptable. So you're talking with the person about it, you're telling them how difficult it is. The person hearing you, and this is the part I want to harp on, the person hearing you hears the struggles and can sense that the energy is very similar in their own lives, but in a different circumstance that is in the realm of what is a struggle that is acceptable. And that person who is listening, maybe not necessarily helping, but listening, tries to express, oh, I feel similarly. I think I've a different circumstance, but I think I see where you're coming from. That person is trying to flex into a similarity, not the exact same circumstance, and not trying to say, I understand exactly what you mean, but saying, okay, that's somewhat relatable. In what is relatable on this side, in what is relatable, that allows you to see different mechanisms that can be helpful to find a sense of resolution, a sense of I'm not as stuck as I thought I was, because it is relatable. And as humans, we have access to all of the same tools, anyway, I'm gonna come back to it on a different video before I really get into a tangent. A desire to be relatable, and from this side, a rejection of what is relatable, because, oh, you're trying to tell me that you're just like me, except look at our lives. Your life is so different than mine. And so a rejection of what seemingly is relatable. And I'm going to regret these lighting choices in the future, but I'm just going to go with it. Yeah. How often do we just want to be understood by someone and then have them reject it because it's not exactly the same? It's you don't know what it's like. You think you know what it's like, but you don't. A desire for that specialness, you know, the but this is different because. So we keep doing this dance, right? And saying, I'm special, I'm different, we're one, we're similar, and then it can trade, and we can say, you know, but you're just like me, you know, we should be one, we should all have common experiences. Oh, but I'm special, you know, I went through all of these other experiences, I paid all this money already, I did all these things, I'm special. We're both unique and we're both one, and it can be difficult to swim through those waters, respecting both aspects, to say, yeah, I see you as completely capable and completely whole. I also see that you are going through a situation and you're human, so there are a number of skills available to you, and I'm not going to make you take them, but I'm not going to choose to see you in a forever divided state. Does that make sense? To go into this conversation, it's almost easier if I know what you're thinking about. So maybe it is easier to just say the thing that I've been trying to avoid saying. I've been introduced to a community resource group. I love it because they have the most healthy conversations I have heard in a very long time. They support one another. They don't force each other to make certain decisions, but they recognize for themselves, you know, I need to admit what can really make my life fall apart, and I don't want that anymore. And so they get together and they talk about it. They're very real, and I love it. There's laughter there, there's seriousness, but like I have been talking about, there is a sense of, oh wow, that whole thought process sounds so familiar to me, and so I just kept going. And what I realized this morning, and the reason why I'm doing this video, is what made my situation to me seem really relatable to them is, I gave it a name, and I don't know if it's completely accurate, but I am addicted to a sacrificial lamb point of view for myself toward the world. If I see some kind of hurt or pain that people are going through, I not only am willing to go through the time to decide on a solution and to put it into action, but I'm also willing to be the sacrificial lamb. And I don't mean as in masochistic. Well, maybe. Okay, I gotta think about that a little bit more, but it's more in the Hunger Games. I offer myself as tribute. You know, I will go through the pain so someone else doesn't need to, or a human shield. You know, so I don't want like the ultimate sacrifice, but I'm willing to go through the pain because I believe so much that I'm indestructible and capable that I'll go through the pain so that you don't have to. And it's very interesting because recently I heard someone say something very similar. You know, they said, I'm trying to save people from pain, realizing that maybe the pain is what they needed to go through. So maybe that influenced my thinking. But it's been difficult when you live that kind of life. It is tempting even in the workplace, to say, I see something that can be harmful or at least painful to go through. And you know what? I'll be the one to do it so that no one else has to. A continual willingness to go through that as a sacrificial lamb, as I'm terming it. As I research it, there may be a better term. But to be willing to go through the pain so that others won't can put you into a very stressful place as an employee or as a business owner, as a family member. Because when does it stop? When does the hardship stop? When do you allow yourself to say, okay, not my turn, someone else's? Or if it becomes your job and you give off the impression that, okay, you know, when you're a leader and you're asking someone to go into a stretch place, you know, show yourself what you can really do. I think you're a little more capable than you're allowing yourself to access. If you get a leader that doesn't know how to self-stop, extremely capable people can really put them into a place that they never know how to go into the place of relaxation, because they're constantly being put into the place of stretch and constantly achieving it and never learning the converse, you know, the rest and repair part of life. So I think in my own situation, when you're around people who are processing things in their life that really sent them into a really bad place, bad for their families, bad for themselves, and just the compulsive decisions that you make, respecting that is special, but seeing the place that is relatable across labels. I saw in myself, oh, they know the effects, they know the ends of a certain action. So they're looking at what put them into that situation, whether it was stress, whether it's resources or networking, feeling alone, being angry at yourself, whatever it was that drove you to an action that in excess took you to ends that you did not desire. So now they're trying to cut it off at the pass. And I looked at myself and I looked at, here are a number of situations that drove me to participating as a sacrificial lamb, to offering myself as tribute, which in excess led to these ends. And now that I'm trying to avoid all of the ends, I'm looking at everything associated with the whole situation. I've not done this before, but I think I took every single thing that ended with this, meaning I was in a particular job, I had this kind of a schedule, I have these many capabilities, and I have these skills, but used in excess can be really bad. But I took them all away. And I said, okay, I'm not going back. I'm not going to end up with stress like that anymore. And that in excess, to not really identify what the true issue is, to separate myself from every single thing that resembled it, is for a time a detox. But over the long term, I don't know. I don't know that this is sustainable. So I just am very publicly realizing that this human shield perception, if I'm going to avoid it, it doesn't mean avoiding those kinds of people, doesn't necessarily require me to remove myself from those types of work conditions. Like I think I'm at the clear-minded stage where I can really tease apart what was really the linchpin, and can I avoid the linchpin? And this is from listening to some others, because in some would talk about having a problem with alcohol, and some of them say I will never again, and that's perfect, because they know for themselves what their outcomes will be. But others say, I know that if I have up to this point, the moment that I can say, yeah, I know I can still stop, then I will let myself have that much, and I'm able to stop, and I did. And they praise themselves for being able to do that. But others say, I don't think I could ever stop. And so they know themselves as well. So in my circumstance, and not belittling, what they're going through, but in my circumstance with that, I offer myself as tribute, place inside of me. Does that mean I always remove myself from every time where I care about the outcomes? I don't think that's necessarily true. Do you see where I'm going? Like, I need to look at the different pieces of me that put me into that place that says, I'm willing to go through the pain instead of you. And teasing it apart, there are going to be parts of me that say, never again, never again, never a yes, never again. And other pieces of me that say, I can participate up to an extent, and then I have a boundary. I really like this. I really like this for me. I'm as I get into other conversations where I actually can put up some graphics for you, I'm hoping this will be really useful for you. Again, I love talking about the workplace. I love talking about us as humanity. I love talking about the kind of world that we can build together. And communication is so essential. And I think a lot of the things that we put out there are so specialized in the nitty-gritty of the thing that we forget how to zoom out and see a picture that uses the fundamental variables that can be used in different situations. The reason I think we forget it is because we live in such an intricate universe, but we've been stuck in these siloed thinking for so long. And I'm gonna say this, in our modes of communication right now, we're encouraged to get so specific and so niche on things that seeing the bigger picture, even though it is a niche, sounds like, oh, it's so simple. I don't like the way I'm saying this. I want to say there is a value to it. And for a time, I think some of the articles were calling it laddering, but I don't think the term has really landed for people to be able to go to the 30,000 foot view, up to the mile-high view, down to very discrete levels, and just kind of switching focus between the two. If I call them scenes or filters, I think that we can teach each other to very quickly, switch between, like the doctor's eyeglass, I guess, 1 or 2, 3 or 4, 1 or 4. I think we can learn to change focus very quickly based on what it is that we're addressing. I like to teach this to emerging leaders because, I'm really excited about some of the content that I'll be putting out. But I just want to leave you, I guess, with that. There are so many different ways to look at something, and that doesn't make it complex. It makes it beautiful, because we're not so one-dimensional or so limited in our abilities to communicate with each other. We're not divided, as in these kinds of people can only hang out with those kinds of people. We're not divided. I'm excited. I'm excited about what we'll build together. I'm excited to put out some more content about communicating well with each other, because as we build things, we need to not only be around people who think just like us. And so we need a way to be able to say, oh, I think we're miscommunicating on this on this issue at this level, but I just need you to know that I see what you're trying to say, and I would like to be on the same page with you. That is what I want to hear between people. Because when we can take our passions and allow them to synergize, we can really do some good things for humanity, for our communities, for our families, for ourselves. I thought, what an exciting time, guys. I'll see you later.